right now, the procurement persona based training is in review. We're going through review, making sure, hey, are we approaching this right? And again, these persona based trainings, like Natalie said, are like, how does the procurement professional collaborate with the FinOps team, collaborate with the engineers, collaborate with product owners in a FinOps sort of sense? So with that, since we are actively working on the procurement review, do any of you have any scenarios that you can share about how you work with your procurement team, just to make sure that we're not missing any sort of common collaboration items?
Yeah, mine is usually involved from like a vendor perspective and working on new vendor deals. So we'll collaborate greatly with the procurement team in order to come up with those deals and what we think is fair.
So do you mean that in regards to just any cloud vendor that you're using?
Yeah, so it's not going to be necessary over like buying savings plans and all that. It's going to be on, if I were to go buy another solution for data integration, right? We would work together to send it through a process and then work with the vendor to evaluate the tool, and the engineering teams to evaluate to make sure that it makes sense for the business.
Cool.
Yeah, I was going to say my experience is kind of similar because of that. There's typically a vendor overlap, and I think the common skill set means that some of those connections just form very naturally and organically. I'm the first point of contact for someone in a centralized procurement department to identify as being someone who has a common language. And then from there, being able to pull in the additional collaborators. I think it's like one bridge builder to another bridge builder builds that larger scope of who needs to be in that group. That's the typical interaction, because they are two separate, they have two separate focuses in their roles. If there is a procurement, they're not the resource that is going to be 100% FinOps focused, but building their awareness of it will help them in their jobs.
That's a really interesting point. I like how you put it. You're the hub for procurement to access other cloud-based personas. There, I was thinking that yesterday. What would frequently happen is someone would suggest a technology, like, let's go buy this tool. And I'd be like, and then procurement would come through and I'd be like, why aren't we using the cloud native service that we already have access to? And then procurement would be like, I don't know. And then the team, it'd be a good bouncing off point. So Thiago, I saw your hand first.
Yes, I want to share my experience building products and solutions for the public sector because it, especially in underdeveloped countries, it kind of works the opposite, because the public sector do not attract way too much talent or human resources to run their infrastructure. So they end up looking for the most agnostic and the most fully managed solution at the same time to create the components for their products. So the procurement is based on the necessity of a ops team or a DBA. It depends. If the public sector, if it's the equivalent for IRS, of course they will have much more data scientists and machine learning engineers, so they won't go for fully managed solutions. But on DevOps or managed DBs, so it's the procurement process for putting the piece together to develop the product in order to sell to the government. It depends on their human resources availability.
Yeah. That's really interesting, more than just the technology aspect of it. That's interesting. Josh, saw your hand next.
Hey, thanks, Joe. And by the way, on the on Zoom, like it does an order now. I think of like the next person with their hand up. So I think Vic is actually after me. Like,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The hand. So, so very similar to Eric and others that have called out there. I have a central procurement team that does all of indirect contracts. They exist in the finance. Well, they exist in the finance organization under BizDev. So they work with every indirect contract that is cloud or, bare metal or, content delivery or network lines in a data center, et cetera. The one difference that we have is we just opened up a vendor management group within our own FinOps team where they're a peer of mine and they're running our QBRs and the day-to-day relationship with the CSPs. Whereas the procurement folks are coming in to do the negotiation and things like that. So we have a day-to-day function that exists inside our group, and then we bring in the big bats, if you will, whenever we're ready to do the negotiation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Vic.
Hey, good morning, folks. Good morning, good afternoon. So similar to what Josh mentioned, Deana and Eric mentioned, right? One of the things definitely we're doing is procurement with all our big contracts with the CSPs. But in addition to that, we also are utilizing them for our marketplace because of our EDP, right? We are promoting a lot of marketplace stuff now with procurement team. So we have set up interfaces and given the access to them to look at the dashboards, the data itself, so they can be our voice to talk to those different business areas, right? To direct them to purchase or procure through marketplace.
That's a great point. That's great. The marketplace items.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on what Vic said, I'm exactly in the same position.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this central procurement team where I'm the main interface, myself and my manager, the director of cloud, whenever they need more information about what the hell is cloud, to put it in a simplistic way, right? So if they have any question about it, they will come to us. They don't understand anything that is within the invoice or anything like that. So whenever there is a negotiation or we have new terms or even things like this marketplace where we want to enhance our EDP consumption and things like that, we are the first contact points for procurement. We will clarify. And we also have this more daily, it's not really daily, but it's my team that has this contact with the cloud provider. So we have a weekly meeting where we discuss topics. As an example, on Azure, they communicated that in April, due to the exchange rate, they will increase the prices or change the prices due to the exchange rate. So those are the sort of things that we typically discuss it first on my level, then we take it to procurement afterwards.
That's really great information. Thank you, Angel. And Bindu. Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, ma'am. What do you folks mean marketplace, the cloud marketplace?
Yeah, so if you want to buy, if you want to procure a third party license.
It's clear now. Thank you.
So at my place, we started on this big cost reduction journey. And as part of it, we identified that, engineering is working with a different SaaS vendor. The cloud solution team is working with a different cloud a SaaS vendor to get all their, training done or, upskilling or even using the third-party tool. So we are consolidating all that. As part of it, we have set up complete demarcation. So procurement is responsible for contract negotiation, working with legal. So FinOps team will get all the SaaS vendor list, and we are, getting rid of some of those because they are, duplicates and such. And what we are doing in terms of FinOps analysis is identifying like how much of these licenses do we need, how many, and which technology should we use. So it's becoming centralized in terms of analysis, and then we completely hand it off to procurement, either by to marketplace or direct contract negotiation. It's their headache. We just do the analysis and we maintain all the licenses and all the socializing of those test vendors across organization. So what I like as part of this process is the complete demarcation of responsibility. And we already have centralized RI, SPs, and all that in FinOps. So it's getting clearer and clearer.
That's awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing this. Natalie, I'm going to enter all this into the feedback on the module.
I think it's great. I'm going to get that recording from you, see if we can put some of this on there. And it's exciting for me to hear because it echoes so much of what I've heard from procurement folks who I've interviewed so far, that it is kind of slowly joining FinOps and getting them more data, more understanding of cloud, and bringing them along on this journey. And that procurement folks, it's just an area of growth for a lot of companies to teach them about FinOps and bring them along on that journey.
JR here from the FinOps Foundation. Thank you for watching. Please go to FinOps.org if you want to get plugged into this amazing community. And of course, hit subscribe right here on YouTube to get all the future content. Hope to see you soon.